welcome to Flory Models, kit review time. Today we've got the 1/48 scale de Havilland Sea Hornet, the NF21 by Trumpeter. You might recognise the look of the aircraft. Obviously de Havilland took the fantastic design that was the Mosquito of having that sort of lightweight construction with the two very powerful engines. They slimmed it all down and basically turned it into the Hornet, which became with RAF Fighter Command just at the end, or definitely just after the Second World War. Then it got navalised with obviously wingfold and everything else like that, and became a fighter on board aircraft carriers for a short while before obviously the jet revolution took everything over. So there we go, as you can see, lovely box art showing those classic lines of the actual one. So a quick run around the box. We've got a little bit about it down there, profile shot, some of the decals that we can expect. Your kit number for this one is 02895. Again, a little bit on there, a little bit down in here, usual things. Not too much, to be honest, on the box. And in the box itself, get that to stand up, it does. Not too bad, quite a stuffed sprue bag. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just have a dig through for our instructions first. Okay, so Master Tools, little catalogue on their stuff, which I must admit there is some nice stuff in there. We've reviewed some of their stuff before. First time I've seen them actually put one in. Okay, so in here we got a little bit there. Crash. Okay, so down in here, let's grab a couple of those, balance that out. We have the instructions, so your normal sort of pull across type way of doing it. So down here, as you can imagine, you've obviously got your crawl out. No photo etch in this one. Usual thing though, so starting off into the cockpit area, we've got a decal for the instrument panel. Putting that system in, doesn't look too bad actually, multi-system down there, and the rear cockpit as well. So that's it. So these are actually two separate ones going into the fuselage halves, as you can see. Very reminiscent, as I say, you look at this aircraft and it's got Mosquito thoroughbred right the way through it. Same type of system down here with the guns underneath. And then we've got the radar up at the front, okay, and then obviously the access boarding area down into the aircraft from underneath like that for the navigator or wireless operator stroke radar operator, I think, in those days. So the nacelles, obviously for the engines coming out, we don't actually have any engine detail at all. Okay, so all you've got really is detail for the actual wheel wells. Looks like we've got some nice down there. The exhaust stacks going on, and then the props and the spinner covers going on. Same for the other side, as you can imagine. Then you've got the wing section. So we've got the radiators going in at the front, some detail on the side for the wing fold section, and then obviously you've got your options if you're going to have them folded up or you're going to be having them out normally. Tail, obviously we've got the full tail and rudder molded completely in one on there, and then we've obviously got the tail planes going on there. Wings, the midsections going in, canopy fits going down and on, as you can imagine. There's your option then. So we've got a very small hinge system for having the wing fold hinged up, or you can have it out. Okay, and then basically those engine nacelles going in on board, putting down posable flaps, so we can actually have those down in. It looks like the other control surfaces aren't, the tail hook, wheel well, and it goes together. So you can see it's not a massively complex aircraft at the end of the day. It's quite simple construction with this. This is what we're ending up with at the end of it. As I say, it has that classic sort of twin engine look to it, but definitely when you look at the back end as well, especially, and the wing profile, it's somewhat reminiscent of the Mosquito, but obviously it looks like a more modern version of it. Thinner wings and everything else. This is a lighter fighter aircraft right the way through. Standard colours out, so you've got the sky, sort of World War II sky colour underneath, which was used extensively after the war for the Royal Navy, with the actual dark sea grey over the top. Okay, a couple of different versions down there. I don't know actually if it says whose versions they are. I don't think it actually does, but that's your versions down there. Decals themselves, if we have a look at those whilst we got them here. We have got the decals. So decals, as you can see them, down on here like that. They have that sort of oily look right the way over them all. They look quite thick, everything else like that. To be honest, the decal for the instrumentation isn't exactly brilliant. The alignment isn't perfect, definitely down here on the white ensign for the tails, but I think it's you're going to get away with it, let's put it like that. It's not going to be a problem with those ones, so we just pop those in. Okay, usual bump sheet on what's coming out in the future, which funny enough, stay tuned because we've got reviews of most of that coming shortly. Right, okay, so if we can find the fuselage first. Okay, so down here in the fuselage, straight off the bat, we just drop the cameras down just a little bit. There we go. So you can see it's de Havilland's way of doing it. So it's that lightweight fighter construction. Okay, so again, not expecting massive riveting detail and everything else because technically it doesn't have it. Okay, so looking down, quite smart, looking pretty basic, but it's all there. Looking down here at some of the more refined touches, you can probably see we've got the actual insides for the cockpit walls. We've got the access door running up. There's no detail on the inside of it. And then we've got the actual bulkheads going through, and we've got some area down there. Looks like we've got a type of tank in there and everything else. All very nice, clean, crisp moulding. It's got that sort of texture that you actually get with most of the Trumpeter stuff. All the panel lines run evenly right to the edges, which is quite a nice touch. It's not that thing when you get near the edge here, they sort of die off. So they're all very nice in there. And this big open box section, which is obviously where the actual wings are going to join the airframe. Very nice to see something big and chunky like that. So very nice on those. And then we just work our way into this one. Okay, so this one over here, we've got the actual looking the detail. This is how you look up into the actual wheel well. So we've got a little bit of plumbing work down there, a little reservoir, a bulkhead down there. The actual nacelles themselves for the engines looking quite nicely detailed. Hopefully the camera can pick out some of the details down on there, and exactly a mirror on the other side. Down here we've got the actual flaps system on this, very nicely done. The radiator intake as well for the leading edge of the wing is in there, seems to be nicely detailed. We've got the tails. Unfortunately the rudder is moulded in one as we thought, so it's just two halves go together, but we have got some nice sort of fabric detail down onto these, which is actually quite a nice touch. I didn't realise they were still fabric at that time, but I suppose they would be. Tail wheel, again, moulded in one, not too bad actually, looks pretty good with a bit of clean up. Down on the inside, quite nice. We don't have any ejector pins, nasty ones down inside in between all of the flaps. As you can see, you've got separate ejector pins all over this just to get them out there, mold no problem. Very nicely done of all of those. So there's no internal detail left on any of those. The wing section itself. Okay, so hopefully you can see. Catch it in the light. Very nice recessed paneling. Seems to be pretty nicely done. Perhaps a little bit deep, but generally very nice. No problem with it at all. Seems to be nice. Again, moulded in for the control surfaces, but you have got some nice differences down there. It'll take weathering really nice. Good dry brushing over that. Have no problem with that at all. Okay, so generally very nice. Undersides, again, you've got the access panel holes. You can see them catching them in the light and everything else. Very nicely done. And the top halves. And then these guys down here, and get them on each side. We've got some quite nice details down here for the actual wing fold mechanism. Looks like it's going to be all very nice, and on the blank side as well, so that's all good. Okay. So down in here we've got a pair, so we can just look at the one. Again, this is the tail. Looks like, yeah, they've actually moulded a different tip on the tail at some point. I don't know if you can catch that in the light. You can just see it's a little bit shiny, then it's not as it goes through, but you can actually feel it. This is where the wing tip is obviously different versions, and then it's a new mould section gone in there. So they literally take a part of it out and put a new plate in for it, and it's got a slight step and a slight line for this one, obviously. So we're assuming perhaps there will be other versions of this. Perhaps they are going to do the RF version as well. Okay, so that's why that is there. It's actually quite noticeable. You can feel it. But a couple of passes with a sanding stick will have no problem with those at all. Well, the light catches it. You definitely feel it quite easily though. But as you can see, the exhaust stacks very nicely done. They are not hollowed out at all. The wheels, again, some nice details there. The exhausts looking very nice. Okay, the props themselves looking pretty good, no problem with those at all. No ejector pin marks in anything as in insides of panels and doors. You can see down here we've got this area of details, which I assume are the side walls for the actual wheel wells themselves. Again, no ejector pin marks in any of these, and this is what we're saying. It's unfortunate the other week that when we looked at the Mosquito that Tamiya did, it was covered in ejector pins everywhere. Okay, so last up we've got the cockpit. So we have the cockpit details down in here. We imagine this is why you've got a slightly different sprue like this, because the RF version will be slightly different. Okay, so down in here, as you can see, you've got no real details, a little bit of surface detail down here for the wheel, for the main cockpit and everything else. The instrument panel is just bezel holes, so it's ready for the decal to go on, which is a bit of a shame because you can't just dry brush it yourself. Trim wheel, quite a nice touch, things like that. The gear itself, there's not massive burring between the two parts, so that's pretty good, but it's very basic. You might want to liven that up. And obviously we've got their throttles and details for the inside of the actual cockpit itself. Again, nothing you would write home about. It's pretty sparse and basic down there. Obviously the arrestor hook, a little bit of burring with a seam line down in that you might want to take care of. So generally not too bad at all. And then we got the clear parts, last up. Okay, so down here in the clear parts, again, beautifully packaged. Take note world. Okay. And then we have some beautiful clear parts. Okay, now this guy down here is incredibly complex to do because of it, so I wouldn't worry about wobble and shape, because let's face it, to try and do a bubble is always going to be a bit difficult. But the main cockpit one is very nice and clear. We have no center seams down there. The panels in the actual front windscreen look very nicely, clearly done, no problem with that. The navigation lights for the actual wings, very good. The good little gun sight on there, obviously another little light down there as well. Generally very nice, no problem with that at all. So there we go, something a little bit different, something that we haven't seen before, but actually looks to be a really nice kit. So there we go, that is the Trumpeter 1/48 scale de Havilland Sea Hornet.